Alright guys, it's that time I suppose. So we're going to be working on the one on the left here. And the one on the right's the one I restored. And it's the same model and year. And my aunt wants a reliable mower. And I've talked up Snapper to her. And she loves it because the one on the right was my grandpa's that he bought new back in '88. And we're going to go through the one on the left and get it all looking pretty for us. So this will be part one of a multiple part series of getting this thing back up and going again. So let's just do a look over of the body here. All the wheels are pretty much shot. Loose. Everything else on it I believe works. It's been a while since I've really looked at it. I just hosed it off yesterday. So the plastic wheels aren't terrible, but they definitely need to be replaced. The drive system bearing is tight, so that's good. Handle controls will need a new throttle cable. Of course it'll need to be painted. There isn't any major rusting on the deck. Let's look at this one. So I completely went through like 4 coats of paint on the bottom of this, and it looks like it's holding up really nice actually. So I might do the same with this because my aunt is notorious for killing lawnmowers. And she recently purchased, I think, one of those Husqvarna, I think it was like a HU 700 maybe. But anyway, the wheel bearings for the back 2 tires were shot, and in order to replace them you had to pretty much disassemble the whole back handle of the thing, and it was just terrible. And so she's been wanting a snapper for a while, so I figured let's do it. So motor wise we're gonna have to go assess some other things because it's all organized in my box now. So let's go take a look at what's left of the motor. Alright, well, it wasn't in my box, but this one is the 1986 kind of a basket case. And I went through the whole thing, used up my gasket set, only to find out that this is, as I said, the 1986 basket case and not the 87, which I needed. So I spent a whole day and a gasket set fixing this thing back up. So now it has like extreme compression, and all the valves are redone and everything. So I guess I'll have to redo that one as well. But that'll be a later project. But for now it can just sit here all together again. So in the meantime, this is the correct motor, and it was in this bucket. So all my goodies are in this bucket. And the bore on this, I mean, it's okay. I'm going to go over it again with a hone. Worst comes to worst, I do have a set of rings that's 20 over, but I think we can get away with just honing that out really nice. So I know I already did the valves on it, and the rest of the block is okay. It just needs to be cleaned, and I have a new gasket kit for it now. So let me get working on this to where we can manage to get a coat of paint on it, which I usually assemble as much as I can on these before I do a coat of paint on them. But this one definitely needs to be washed over again before I attempt to do that. So let me get going on that, and I'll turn you guys back on here. Hey guys, so this is the gasket set I'm using. 391662. And sorry for the fan noise. I got the fan on because it's getting pretty warm out here. But this is the base of the engine, and it's still pretty darn clean from when I last cleaned it. So we're going to replace this bottom seal and the upper seal for your entertainment anyway. You guys can see. Okay, so replacing these is actually pretty simple. Get yourself a big screwdriver, wedge it underneath it, and then lightly bump it. Work it around. There it goes. So out with the old. You want to get a rag and clean out where it was sitting. You also want to inspect. You want to inspect the surface it sits on, because if there's any galling or anything, it might interfere with your seal, and you don't want that. So this one actually looks pretty nice. So we're going to go into our kit here. And get our brand new seal. May as well get the other one out. So this big one is the bottom, and this little one is the top. So for the bottom, what I was taught is that there's this little spring on the inside of this seal. Where are you? So, and that spring is what clamps around the crankshaft as it's moving, and it doesn't allow oil to get out. So what I was told is that you pack it with grease, and when you go to put your crank in, it doesn't push that spring out. And it helps you seal up your bearing here. So wipe off any excess grease on the outside of it. And you want to just set it in. And now you don't want to hit anywhere on the inside of the bearing or seal. I guess it's a seal, guys. And you want a socket that can fit just over it. So this one is 1 1/8" channel lock. And you want to just lightly whap it in. A little bit more persuasion. Let's get. So this one's a 15/16. So with that, our seal is seated inside. So now we can start putting it together. Alright, you still see me? Oh, we don't want that. Oh, crap. The top seal just fell behind my bench. I guess I'll have to fish that out here later. Alright, anyway, got our crank, but most importantly, this is our oil flinger. This is what flings the oil up inside. You put that in, so that just sits there and flings the oil up and around. And there's another dog outside. He's on guard duty. So that is an important thing to remember. Alright, next, make sure that seal's clean. Looks pretty darn clean in there. Alright, so we're done with that part for now. Onto the block, I honed it out, and you can still see that line in there from when it was stuck. But I mean, it's stinking smooth, so I don't think it's going to really affect anything motor-wise. But now we can start putting together the main parts of the motor here. So piston's all cleaned out from last time I worked on it, and the pin is still really good, and the bearing surface is like untouched. So I like a little bit of lube on it, a little bit of lube on the inside. You know, wipe it around with your finger. You can also use just your regular motor oil. Now, I have a ring compressor here, but you can just manually pinch them down in there. The dog's coming back up the block. And just tighten it down. You can just push it in. So now your piston's inside. Right here. So now it's inside. So now we're going to go to our crank here. And on the crank itself, I have some, this is new oil. So we're just going to dab a little bit on the journal and where it's going to ride in our bearings here. So just kind of smooth that around. It's best not to put this in dry, because then when you go to start it, it doesn't really have any lubrication, so you risk burning your surface there. So now you're going to push it through. Oh, actually, probably should have done it first. Here, we'll do it first. Piston out, crank in. So now we'll put in the piston here. And you want to make sure that it faces the valves. So this part faces the valves. The C anyway. So you want the C pointed toward the valves. So try this again here. I usually don't use a ring compressor, but it does make it a heck of a lot easier. Alright. Line it up with the crank here. And you can install the other half, which is also really nice looking. Put those in. I have actually not heard this motor run. When I got it, as I said in a previous video, it was frozen, and the way it got frozen, I'm not sure. It might have just been water got into it. But, I mean, there was very little damage to anything inside of it. that really could have caused it, besides just getting some gum inside of it, some varnish. But we'll hear it run here maybe in the next couple days. Alright, so we'll get those together. I think those are... No, those are 7/16. Oh my gosh. There's no dog this time. Oh, what the heck? I know I got a 7/16 because I just cleaned and I had a 7/16. That's not 7/16 either. Dare I say they might be metric? Well, an 11mm socket fits it, so we're going to go with that. You can rotate it. There you go. You get it in there. Now, according to the book, these are supposed to be torqued to a certain inch-pound. So we'll just look that up here. We're going to do it by the book. I imagine it'd be just section. Separation. I think they'd have like a table of torque. I think they do. Section 9. Oh, here we go. So, connecting rod screw torque. This is a 9000 series. It says 100 inch-pounds. So, we'll get our handy-dandy torque wrench here. Older style, but still works. If I could stop dropping stuff, that'd be great. Alright. I gotta get a stubby. There. Just enough to where you can't get it. Try it right there. Here it is. And 100. So, torque to the book. And it feels pretty nice. So did a good job in that aspect. So now you want to put in your lifters. And before I did this, I was smart and I actually labeled them. So they just sit up inside of it. Like so. Now this can be kind of tricky to install everything. So I don't need to do the top seal because I did that previously before I put it away, and the seal still looks like it's in nice shape. So we now get our main gaskets out. Oh, doesn't look like we cleaned it very well there. So we'll clean our mating surfaces. This is just a plastic scraper because you don't really want to gall up the surfaces when you do this. And you definitely don't want oil leaking out of your brand new rebuilt motor. How embarrassing that would be. Okay. Get our new gasket here. These do come with 3 of the base gaskets. I usually only use the 1. But I mean, you could sandwich them between if you really want a good seal, which I think I might do on this one. So you do the base gasket, paper gasket, and the main gasket, like so. Now we can position this. So we got our lifters, we got our cam. But the cam itself, okay, the timing on the cam, that's kind of important. So on the cam it has this dot. There it is, the dot. And you want to line that gear up with the dot on the crank. Of course, if you don't do that, then this thing's never going to run. That doesn't look right at all. Those like barely meshed together. That's way too much slop. That's not the right crank. That's not the right crank, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let me go figure out where the right crank is, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so that was the right crank. Once it aligned itself in with the base, everything worked out just fine. So the base is all installed. To help me work on these, I just have this little plywood stand. It's not very complicated. My Tecumseh book has plans for a really nice engine servicing stand, which I need to make. Maybe I can make that in one of my later videos. But I'm just going to see if it'll crank over. This one has that noise too. You go in. then it goes away. But it's got to be a valve, because that's what it sounds like. It sounds like one of the springs. Although I don't think these have a really a compression release. But you can tell when it moves that one of the springs, and you can kind of see it in there. Ooh. One of the springs kind of snaps back, so it's almost like the lifter isn't getting enough lubrication to let it work. But it went away, so we'll find that out, I guess. Similar to what the 86 had, that clicking sound, which, I mean, it's got to be a valve. So we'll clean this up. We got a new gasket for it. Gotta love putting new gaskets on old stuff, because it makes it feel like new stuff. Careful not to stab yourself with a screwdriver, because everybody, who's anybody, has stabbed himself with a screwdriver. It was really on there. Alright. Pretty new gasket. Make sure you install it the right way. And wipe off any grease. This will get another good little degreasing before I put any primer or paint on it. But if it'll save you some work down the road, might as well just do it. Alright, this will be a wrap for this video. So we got the head on, carburetor bracket on, pretty much the entire block itself is back together again. And in the next one, we'll continue putting this engine together. And I don't believe this might be the right gasket set. It has the wrong head gasket, and it's got the wrong carburetor inlet gasket for the carburetor right there, or the block gasket, I should say. So that one goes in like so, but the gasket for that is too big, so I'm going to have to do some more investigating into that. And I believe the breather tube is broken, so I need to order one of those. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for subscribing, commenting, liking, and watching, for that matter. So until next time, we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.